So I think, having been absorbed in this now since really the end of February, beginning of March, we've really turned our attention over the past couple of weeks to how the town and the local economy starts to recover from this. So, for instance, we're looking at, we've had no choice but to cancel the air show because simply there isn't the availability of military flying teams at this time. So the air show has been postponed until next year. But we are looking at things now like the illuminations. So we're scenario planning around whether we'll be able to have a traditional switch-on party or whether that might need to be more of a virtual broadcast party. But also thinking about the timing of the illuminations and whether or not, in fact, we might not be able to run the illumination season on up until Christmas or maybe even the New Year. There'll be some challenges in that, but actually that's quite exciting. That's something that's never ever been done before.
Now, that is amazing because we have actually mooted the idea of running it to Christmas, haven't we, in years gone by? And there have been difficulties, logistical difficulties, of course, with getting the display in before the bad weather. But that's a real possibility now. And our season is expandable and contractable accordingly, isn't it?
Absolutely. And when I had a one-to-one meeting with the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer last week, and one of the points I made to her was that the Blackpool economy actually is used to shrinking and contracting on a very regular basis. So most towns and cities operate pretty much the same way all year round. We've always sort of more or less closed down in November and then more or less fully reopened in March. So, you know, Blackpool's very used to this, and we're good at dusting things off and springing back into life, apparently overnight. So I think that is a huge strength that Blackpool has that very few other places do have.
We have some massive projects ongoing at the moment, don't we? And how are you planning the recovery around those things? We have the museum, of course, and we have the conference centre, and of course work due to start in Wilkinson. Some massive projects.
Absolutely. So some things grind to a complete halt in circumstances such as this, I've discovered, but other things don't. So, for instance, I had a Zoom call with all of the people who are behind the Blackpool Central scheme last week, and I've had further conversations this week. And because these are people who are all over the world and actually locked down all over the world, what they've been able to do is devote their time entirely to the sort of desktop and planning work that needs to go into that. And if anything, we've made more progress as a result of lockdown because people aren't being pulled from pillar to post. So some of the firm plans now that I've seen and that I hope we'll be able to release to the public before the end of the year are absolutely amazing for that site. So it swings and roundabouts. And as you say, you look at the new hotel at the Sands venue, you look at the conference centre, some work has been able to continue there. As soon as circumstances allow, we're now in a position to demolish the old Wilkinson's building. There really is a lot going on. There's a lot to be grateful for. And, you know, I don't sense when I speak to investors or developers, I don't sense any amount of economic gloom about Blackpool's future. What I see and hear is almost uniform positivity because we have so many assets on which we can capitalise as we come out of this crisis.
So looking at the future plans for next year, I presume you've got a lot of stuff already in the bag because we weren't able to do it this year. It gives you a bit of extra planning time as well and tie that in with how the economy may look this time next year.
Absolutely. So we had a cabinet meeting the other night, and following that, I've asked officers to prepare and present to us within the next 10 days a recovery and relaunch strategy that's going to look at what we can get out of the remainder of this year. And that's not just in terms of tourism, but in terms of what we can do for local people and what we can do to sort of enhance everybody's experience of the town, what we can do to get people back into the town centre and back into the shops when that's allowed, but also to make sure that we have the best season ever next year, because I think there's a real opportunity there to market ourselves nationally and internationally as somewhere where people can come and have fun and feel safe.
And that's about a joined up marketing strategy as well, isn't it? A one Blackpool image to put to the outside world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the council works so much more closely with its own wholly owned companies such as Blackpool Transport, the Sandcastle and the Winter Gardens, but also with our partners as well. So, you know, I talk very regularly to Amanda Thompson at the Pleasure Beach and her colleagues. We're in regular dialogue with the zoo, obviously with a very close partnership with Merlin. And one of the things I want us to do is to pull all of that together and start communicating as a town rather than as, you know, a dozen different organisations. And I have to say everybody's very positive about that. Everybody's up for that. Any marketing type will tell you that that's the best way of spending your limited marketing budget. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be positive about for the future.